My name's John Brumfield. I'm the CEO of Berlin Heals in Berlin, Germany. Berlin Heals was founded a little over 10 years ago. It was founded by two cardiothoracic surgeons that knew how the problem of heart failure was really not getting solved by a lot of the treatments available. So a lot of treatments in heart failure address symptoms, or they cover conditions that the patients might feel a little bit better, but the disease is always there. And so they took a concept from early bench testing around direct microcurrent. And that means just putting a constant current across diseased tissue and allows the tissue to be in an environment where they start to heal and improve. So at Berlin Heals, we have a device that is used to treat heart failure. And it's an electrical implant that we place one lead in the right ventricle and a patch on the left side of the heart. We connect these to what looks like a pacemaker, and then we run direct current between these two electrodes. After about 6 months of therapy, the patient's hearts will start to shrink and their symptoms go away. So we're really treating the heart failure. We're creating a lasting, enduring effect of the disease. And it's really a groundbreaking heart failure device that we're quite excited to bring to market very soon. So the company started in 2016, and through cell experiments and animal experiments went into humans in 2019. And then in 2021, they went to a randomized clinical trial. And the results are coming out in another month or two that I'm quite excited to share from the stage. And then we'll be entering next generation products later this year and next year. Globally, there are 64 million patients that have heart failure. And this market is growing rapidly. Now, why is heart failure expanding so much? It's because we're really good at saving people's lives. So we can give medications to reduce plaque formation. We can go in during a heart attack and open vessels. We have new devices to keep you from dying of arrhythmias. And so what patients used to just die acutely from, they're now living longer with these conditions. And what happens is when you live longer with these cardiac conditions, the heart stays weak and these patients stay alive longer. And then we have to manage this disease. And so that 64 million is growing rapidly. The latest data from HFSA says that 1 in 4 people in the US will develop heart failure in their lifetime. So the pandemic is quite large. The opportunity is expanding and more solutions are needed. Most patients in heart failure, they see a cardiologist and they start on drugs. There's 4 pillars of the therapy where you need to have all of these drugs to be treated. Unfortunately, if you look at proper dosages, only 1% of Americans with heart failure are at dosage that they should be on. So guideline-directed medical therapy for heart failure is significantly underpenetrated. And then when we think of how can we improve that, well, the societies are doing a good job trying to educate clinicians to put the patients on the right drugs, give them the right devices. But unfortunately, no device or drug has really been able to reverse the disease. And that's what's so unique about this technology, is it has the chance to reverse that long-term disease. So the product is called CMIC, cardiac microcurrent device. And what that does is it allows current to transfer across the diseased cardiac tissue. So the CMIC device, it starts with a lead that's placed in the right ventricle. So this is what looks very much like a defibrillator lead. It's accessed through a vein. It goes down the vein and into the heart and sits in the right ventricle like this. This has a conductor, a coil of metal that we send electricity. The second device is a patch that's made of similar metal that we place on the left side of the heart, on the outside of the heart. That lead is then tunneled up to the device, to the patient's chest right here. The other side of the lead is connected to the same location, and then the device is a pacemaker looking device, about the same size as a pacemaker. These leads are then plugged in to the ports on the pacemaker looking device. They go under the skin and you sew it closed. The patient goes home, they don't have to change anything. They just have to do a little bit of wound care for about a week or so. But after that, they don't even notice the device is there. How the device works is between these two electrodes in the heart, we create direct current between the two. And by just running microamps between the two, we can create an environment where that diseased tissue can start to heal. And we see this in x-rays and fluoros where the heart will start to shrink over time. And the patients feel better, their symptoms go away, they can walk twice as far as they did before, And the results from the study, we got to visit some patients that were in our initial studies, and they came and said thank you. They were just so excited. It'd been 4 or 5 years since they were implanted. They walk in smiling. One physician that was at this meeting referenced that a patient before she was in the trial had to get assistance to walk down the hall, go up the elevator, and then walk down the hall with assistance to be seen in the clinic. And when she showed up that day, she came in the clinic and they said, "Well, where's your daughter? How did you get here?" And she said, "I walked." And they said, "You walked all the way to the elevator and up?" And she goes, "And I took the stairs." And everyone had smiles, tears. It was really a special moment. And when you see that and you see the patients that just say, "Thank you, you've given me my life back. I'm able to do things with my grandkids. I'm able to live longer and healthier." It makes all of this worth it. So the results are amazing that we've seen so far, that it really does have a lasting effect. What we presented last month at the THT conference showed that we give 6 months of therapy and the heart will shrink, and the improvement in quality of life and the 6-minute hall walk test, all the outcomes are positive. But then we turn the device off after 6 months. We follow these patients for an additional 2 years. And 2 years after the therapy's been turned off, the patients sustain their benefit. So that means we're actually doing some kind of remodeling. We're doing something that's lasting. And so we know through our evidence now that current can heal the heart. And now the question is, can we do it less invasively? So instead of needing to put that patch on the outside of the heart surgically, can we do it under the skin? Can we move it in different places? Can we do it with different leads? And so these are what we're developing now is our next generation products. And then beyond that will be things like automated algorithms where we detect the heart failure, we automatically give second rounds of therapy. What we want this to be is we want this to be a device that is non-cumbersome for the clinicians. They put it in, they leave it, and if the patient needs therapy a year, 2 years down the road, it can provide that when the patient needs it. We have a first generation product that has gone through animal testing, first in man study, and we just completed a randomized control trial for CE approval. That data will be presented at the ESC Heart Failure Conference in 2 months. When that data is presented, we will soon after apply to the CE. The TÜV-SÜD is the European body for regulatory. We'll apply for CE approval. That process takes about a year or so. And then we should be able to enter the European market with our first generation product middle of next year. And we're designing a clinical trial that we start next month where we'll be doing a less invasive approach. And so instead of placing the patch inside the chest on the heart, we'll place it outside the chest. So it's an outpatient procedure. That study, we start first in man next month. And then this summer, we should hopefully get some results to see if it's as effective. If that's as effective as what we saw in our first trial, then we'll plan for a large pivotal, probably in 2026, for FDA entry. Last month at the THT conference, we presented as a late-breaking clinical trial data on our long-term follow-up of our first-in-man study. That was pretty groundbreaking. We had a lot of clinicians come up to the stage afterward and say, how? How does that work? The fact that you can provide 6 months of therapy that showed great outcomes, and then we turn the device off, and for 2 years, additional years, patients are able to maintain their status. That shows we're doing something lasting. And that's never been shown in heart failure before, which is something very unique for us. In 2 months, we will present our randomized clinical trial. And this is where we randomize implant patients versus guideline therapy. That trial will be the first randomized trial of current therapy in cardiac heart failure patients. We're really excited about those results. I can't share them yet as they're embargoed, but we hope to do a simultaneous publication in a respectable journal. And then this year, we're doing our first in man less invasively. So if our early results show that we can do this outside the ribs, I think the market opportunity expands dramatically. We can treat not just tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of patients, but millions of patients could benefit from this.